Hello, good morning. Still with the research methods, still with the way of organizing your research paper. We have already started last time about what is meant by research paper, and we started discussing the sections of how many sections the research paper has. And we have already seen what are the similarities and the differences between both a dissertation and a thesis. We stopped last time at organizing the research paper. To start with, there is a research paper of any kind is divided into preliminary sections, middle sections, and concluding sections. We have seen what is meant by including sections. What are the preliminary sections that are included in a research paper, whether a dissertation or a thesis. Today we are going to see what is meant by. Today we're going to see what is meant by the middle sections of the research paper. Where basically the middle section of the research paper is where really the bulk of the work relies. It consists of introductory chapter, data chapters or methodology chapters, depending on the approach. If it is qualitative, your chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3 will be, and 5 will be labeled data chapters. And if the quantitative approach is used, chapter 1, 2, 3 and 4, maybe 5 will be labeled or known as methodology chapter, and then the conclusion or the concluding chapter. As I already said, organizing the middle sections of your research paper varies from qualitative to quantitative research paper. To start with, we gotta have a look at the approaches, at both approaches. What is meant by qualitative and what is meant by qualitative on one hand, and what is meant by quantitative approach on the other hand. All right, to start with, qualitative research paper is done or is used to help understand how people feel and why they feel as they do. It looks like let's say a theoretical study. We are just concerned with describing. So it is qualitative research as an approach. Just has the aim of describing events, describing phenomena, and describing feelings. Right? What is very important in the qualitative research paper is that it seeks in-depth information. When we collect data, we seek to collect in-depth, really the in-depth information. And what are the tools which help the researcher in his qualitative research to collect or gather, let's say, in-depth information are the questions, the number of questions that he has to ask, because he seeks in-depth analysis and in-depth investigation. So he is obliged to look for more information related to the topic, to his topic of discussion or topic of analysis, relying on mainly WH questions. Alright, it is based on interpreting the facts, events and phenomena. Just in qualitative research, the aim is to uncover process, uncover events. Means we show the events to people and we try to interpret them, to explain how events, phenomena, behaviors, or feelings acted in this way and not in that way. Alright, Crosswell defines what is meant by qualitative research when he says it is a process of achieving a deeper understanding of facts or events. So the main purpose of conducting qualitative research is to help understand, but a deeper understanding, to help people understand deeply the events or the facts or the behaviors or the feelings based on distinctive traditions of the methodology of the scientific research that uncover social or human problem. Well, let's say distinctive traditions or traditional methodology used in qualitative research doesn't look somehow difficult. We just need to identify the problem and divide the problem into the main problem into sub-questions, so that it will be easier to, as it is mentioned by Crosswell, uncover social or human problem. The researcher builds a complex and comprehensive image and analyzes the words and puts a report detailing the views of mentors, then to conduct the study in a natural position. So, the researcher has to, let's say, build his story, let's say, alright, the aim of conducting a qualitative research for a researcher is to, let's say, build his image. Build his image or create his story. How does he present? How does he, which way he used in order to, let's say, make people or make readers understand that event or that phenomenon under study. Alright. The methods of qualitative research are used only for seeking in-depth information or increasing the our understanding of the phenomenon or problem which is under investigation. Whatever method we use in qualitative study, for the sake of increasing our understanding, looking for in-depth information and increasing our understanding of the topic under investigation. We see here examples of research problems or research papers in which qualitative study or qualitative approach are used. What strategies do African American women develop to successfully complete college at a predominantly white campus? An investigation of what the African American women during the period of racism racial segregation in the United States of America. So what they did, how did they succeed in completing college to complete college in a white campus? We can also research a paper on 11th September the 11th. All right, causes, aftermath, and so on. All right. Historically, the qualitative research approach originated from Chicago School approach. The Chicago School approach was a group of sociologists led by Robert Park, who was a former journalist. This group of sociologists were led by Robert Park, who was a former journalist, and after creating the sociology department at the University of Chicago in the 1920s and 1930s, they started studying different aspects of community life. So they studied the homeless, they studied the poor, the rich. So from this approach, from the Chicago School approach, let's say from the Chicago School approach, the qualitative approach originated, and it was recommended as a research approach. All right. The most important thing, or the objective of let's say conducting qualitative research. Why do people or researchers let's say conduct qualitative studies? For accomplishing several things: to provide a new insight on a topic that is viewed as thoroughly covered. When studying, for example, people don't know what is meant by or what happened to the United States of America, during September the 11th. So the event looks covered. So when we study, we bring new insights. New perspective. We try to uncover, to show it and present it to people in order that they can understand something about. Also, it can expose errors and provide truths to common misconceptions. It is possible when conducting qualitative studies to, let's say, refine theories, or to, let's say, to clear out some of the doubts related to a given topic. Alright, as far as qualitative research paper, as I said, a qualitative research paper, the middle section of a qualitative research paper is divided into introductory chapter, data chapters, and concluding chapter. Alright, coming now with the introductory chapter, introduction. Alright, in the introduction chapter, we mainly, the purpose of writing an introductory chapter is to mainly introduce the topic. Introduce the topic of your research, to inform about the topic of your research. The major question to answer in the introductory chapter is: what is the title of my research paper, and how does it relate to the theme, to the general theme, to the theme, or to the aim of research? Well, generally speaking, in the introductory chapter, what we should include the following information: the background of your research, background information related to your research topic, how you come to research your topic, the methods that can be used or that should be used, how your topic relates to the world around it. So in case we're talking about literature review, it's very important. And what kind of general principles and methodology you will be using to research on your topic, and in order to evaluate your hypothesis. Which kind of methodology, or which kind of method you're supposed to use in your research paper in order to study your topic. Alright, what is the role of the introduction? What is the role of the introductory chapter? The introduction of the research paper, according to Curtis and Atkinson, it is shaped like an hourglass. It is shaped like an hourglass. Very open on top and very open at narrow. It looks like having two bowls, one on top and one at the other. And so this is the introduction, according to Curtis and Atkinson, the introduction of the research paper, dissertation or a thesis, is shaped like an hourglass, as we see. Open on both top and bottom, and you see what is it is very narrow in the middle. So this is the structure. This is the classical structure of an essay, an academic essay, and also of an academic research paper. Why? So we have to start with the general rule is as follows. You start from the general to the most specific, then you discuss the specific, and then from the specific you go back to the most general. So a research paper or an academic essay, an academic research paper or an academic essay, always cyclic. What is meant by cyclic is it means that you end up your research or your essay where you have already started. So, since you have started from the most general, now it is time to end up your research paper with the most general. Coming back to. All right. What's the most important thing? What's the most important thing What's the most important thing? What is the most important thing in the introductory chapter is the literature review. Review of the literature. It is a collection of the major works related to your topic of research. Well, why it is very important and why it should be present in your introductory chapter. It is very important for the sake that it is impossible for a researcher to indicate that he is the first one to research on the topic. No, you're not the first one. But many people, many studies, many researchers have already started researching on the topic, and they started from a given point and then they stopped now at a given point. So what you should do in your literature review is that you have to collect some of the research works done before related to your topic and indicate where did they start, what did they study, and where did they stop now. And you inform that you are going to carry your research on upon where they have already stopped. Stopped, not ended, because research doesn't end at all. All right. The literature review may be arranged. All right. When writing the literature review, you should consider the following steps. Of course, first you have to collect. Of course, it is impossible to include all the literature review from many years ago until nowadays. No, you have to. All right, you have to limit the period in order to collect. All right, you collect about 10, about 8. If you collect 8 or 10, but that's enough. And then you're not going to include them in your literature review when you write your literature review as a part of the introduction. But you have to select. Remember, you have to select the most relevant researches to your topic of research. From the 10, you select only 7 or 6. It's okay. When you select them, now it is time to arrange them. Now it is time to arrange them, alright? The literature review. When writing the literature review, you have to collect the literature review. Books studied, for example, books studying different phenomena, research studies, research works, let's say in quarterlies, in scientific journals. Do not use literature review from newspapers or different magazines, all right, or TV magazines, because they have nothing to do with it. They have nothing to do with it. Research. So this is what you should avoid when collecting the literature review. Avoid the newspapers and the TV magazines, because they have nothing to do with it. Research. All right. Now it is time to write. Let's say it is time to write a short. It is time to write a short paragraph about. The paragraph, in each paragraph, you have to include the following information. The who made the study, who made the research, then the year, then what did he study, the problem being researched, and what did he find out. Alright, when you select and, let's say, summarize the research works that you have already collected, now it is time to arrange. The literature review may be arranged according to various questions that are asked, or various topics, or specific variables, or different points of view, or according to chronology, which is the easiest and the most common way of organizing the literature review. It's very easy, from earlier to from recent to from oldest to recent. From 2005, for example, from 2005 to 2011 or 2013. So the most recommended way of organizing the literature review is chronology, because it is the easiest one. You just need to consider dates and years in organizing your literature review. Alright, as far as reporting on previous research, this is related to your literature review. When we write, when writing down, when summarizing. Alright. Reporting on previous research. I mean, what are the ways of, let's say, when writing, how to report on the literature review. Swales provided two ways of researching on previous research, as far as the literature review is concerned. One way is making the author as directly responsible for the particular finding or argument, which is led by the central reporting. And the second way is making, let's say, not making the author as responsible for the finding, but, alright, in the first way according to Swales, it is the author who is responsible for the study. The second way, the focus is not put on the author or the researcher, but on the findings as such. So this the second way is referred to Swales as the non-central reporting. An example: central reporting, strong author focus, work 1986, discovered that many students would like to become integrated into Australian society. And the second way, the non-central reporting, the weak author focus, is present in this example, is illustrated in this example. It has been shown that students have often performed successfully in their own education system before they seek entry to the particular university. So we see here the difference. central reporting, we started with the author as being responsible for the study. However, in the non-central reporting, the author is, let's say, is mentioned in parentheses. The focus here, so there is no indication of the author. The focus is on the finding rather than the researcher. All right. Now, organizing your data chapters after providing background information, after informing about the literature review, after informing about after indicating the methodology and the research question. Now coming to the data chapters. It is where you provide the reader. It is where you provide your readership with data. I mean data here. Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3, in which the discussion and the analysis of the topic are carried out. So it looks, the process looks like inviting someone to your home as a guest. Alright, so you're not going to pass all the time talking and having fun, but you have to nurture, you have to provide dinner, food to your reader. That's the main purpose of data chapters, is to provide dinner, is to provide data related to your topic, using analysis, discussion and different methods, so that to inform, so that to bring a deeper understanding of your topic to your reader. Alright, how to organize your data chapters. Basically, we have 4 different ways of organizing the data chapters. I mean, after choosing the topic, how to organize chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, and maybe chapter 4 or 5 related to your topic of research. Thematic organization to start with. In qualitative research, sometimes we organize the chapters, the data chapters, according to different themes related to the topic. Alright, it is a kind of strategy in qualitative research. So as we see here, it's an example of a research paper, entitled Globalization and its Effect on Foreign Language Teaching and Learning. Alright, accordingly, the researcher has divided, has divided his data chapters, has organized them thematically. So, chapter 1 related to one theme, chapter 2 related to another theme, and chapter 3 related to another theme too. So, the main theme of chapter 1 is defining globalization. What is globalization as a general theme? Then the second theme related to chapter 2, impact of globalization on language teaching, and then chapter 3, methods and materials brought by globalization as far as FO learning or teaching is concerned. Next, we have the data type organization. In this type of organization of organizing your data chapters, you have different data, many kinds of data. You have narratives, you have interviews, you have historical data, you have many types of data, many different types of data. The problem, yes, the question that arises now is how to organize them. What to put in chapter 1, what to put in the type of data to put in chapter 1, the type of data in chapter 1 should be different in chapter 2, the one that you make in chapter 2 should be different in chapter 3, and so on. The most common way of organizing your data chapters is known as chronological organization. When writing a research paper about history, it's very easy. You just divide the topic into its stages of involvement. You have to take into account, as far as chronological organization, you have to take into account what happened before the event, then what happened to the event, then what happened after the event, after the end of the event. We're talking about the aftermath. So we have to document the stages of involvement. We have to take into account, as you see, the before, during and after method of organization. So we see here an example, research about the American Revolution. Chapter 1, historical background. What happened? What are the origins of the American Revolution? Another related topic to the chapter 1 has to do with the chronological organization is prelude to the American Revolution, the causes of the American Revolution, as we see here, and then we have another type of organization is labeled classificatory organization. It looks like writing categories. You divide the topic, the main topic, into categories related to, yes, each category is related to the main topic or the main theme of the research. For example, forms of education, a research paper on forms of education used in the Algerian school. Chapter 1. We have to indicate one form of education. Chapter 2, another form. Chapter 3, another form, and so on. All right. Now we have to talk about the methods related to the approach, the qualitative approach. What are the methods that are associated with qualitative approach that we rely on, we use or we rely on when conducting qualitative studies? All right. Basically, qualitative research is associated with case studies, ethnography, and interviewing. To start with, case study. The case study method of research has been originated from clinical research or clinical medicine, which basically means studying the case history of the patient. It's a case history about the personal history of the patient. It looks like describing. It is basically describing the symptoms and diagnosis, the treatment, and eventual out. It looks like a descriptive method. We describe the situation of the patients in order to know what's going on with him, in order to diagnose the problem, in order to really diagnose what's the problem with. We rely on the person's own memories and the memories of the friend, the memories of his friends and his relatives, in order to record his situation. Alright, it looks like carrying an in-depth investigation. A case study is always means carrying an in-depth investigation to know exactly the roots of the problem, to know exactly the origins of the problem under investigation or under discussion, in order to see what influences the problem or the phenomenon or the events. All right. A case study doesn't mean a single thing. When we say a case study, it doesn't mean we have to take only one thing. No. It can be comparative study, comparing and contrasting between two items or two elements. We can take into account when using a case study as a topic for our research. We can take into account, for example, an organization, groups of people, a country. We can study a country. So we can study a family, a tribe, a social group. So case study doesn't mean one thing or one person. It can be an organization, a group of persons, and so on. All right. What what's very important in a case study is that multiple sources are used in order to investigate, in order to seek an in-depth investigation of the topic. The case study method usually involves observing what happens and then reconstructing the case history of a single participant or a group of individuals. So we just observe. In a case study, we just observe what happened to the phenomenon, to the social group or to the event, and then we construct our story. It means we interpret what we have already observed or what we have already seen into using our own ways in order to make it understandable to our readers. Alright, the case study method is conceived in the following diagrams. So, the circle chart, which means that dividing, which relies on dividing, as you see, the steps of conducting a case study into 4 steps. Step 1 is known as the problem step. It is where you, let's say, discover what's wrong with the problem, and so on. And then, from the problem step to the analysis step, it is where you diagnose the problem. It is where you diagnose. It is where you diagnose everything related to the problem. And then, from analysis step, you move to the approaches step. It is where you suggest what are the theoretical solutions to the problem. You try to implement strategies or approaches in order to deal with the problem. And then the action ideas. The last step is known as the action ideas. It is where you study. It is where you implement your. It is where you study, where you implement your methodology in order to discuss, analyze, or investigate your problem. Another model for diagnosing a case study is provided by Van de Van. It is known as the Diamond model for case analysis. It is divided into 4 steps, as you see, conceived into 4 steps, as you see. So case reality, step 1, case reality. It is where you formulate the problem for your research. And then you move to problem or question. It is where you conceive the model for building. The model for building. Sorry. The case study is where you indicate the case, when you encounter the case. Then, problem formulation. What's wrong with the case? It is where you, let's say, it is where you indicate what's the problem with, formulate the problem. Then, conceptual model. It is where you build the strategy or the approach to diagnose or to study the problem. And then, after dealing with the conceptual model, now it is time to bring solution or indicate what solution can be good for the problem being studied. So basically, a case study is known as having the following characteristics. It is narrowly focused. The focus is only on one thing, one person, one tribe, one social group, one organization, one country, and so on. In order to fully describe it, the focus is only on one, because we need to really focus on and describe on. Then, both objective and subjective data are combined by the author. And then it is process-oriented. The focus is on the way you have used. The focus is really on the process. not only results. How did you come up to the results? Alright, another research method which is associated with ethnography, with qualitative research, is commonly known as ethnography. Ethnography is of a Greek origin, ethno and graphy. Ethno means human culture, and graphy means description of. So it is a description of human race or human culture. Alright, ethnography is a branch of anthropological studies. It is the study of a particular group or phenomenon, cultural group or social group. Lutz defined what is meant by ethnography when he says that it centers on the participant observation. It means the researcher is acting as an observer. The main observer, he observes everything surrounding him when he studies the group. Through complete cycle of events that regularly occur as the society interacts with its environment. Alright, he observes the social group in the natural settings, means when they interact with nature or with the environment. Brewer defined ethnography when he stated that it is the study of people in naturally occurring settings or fields. So the field work or the setting means that the living place of that social group where they should interact. By methods of data collection which capture the social needs and ordinary activities involving the researcher participating directly in the setting in order to collect data. So we have a field work and we have a researcher being integrated or being in that setting. So he has to act as a member of the tribe, dressing like them, behaving like them, so that he should be a member of that group in the setting, in the natural setting, so he can observe everything surrounding him, and it is also through observation that he is going to take into account, he is going to record everything surrounding him. From these two definitions, I conclude that ethnography is a systematic study. Right, I come up with a conclusion, general conclusion, in order to define what is meant by ethnography. It is a systematic study through stages. The process of ethnography is conducted through stages. We're going to see what are these stages. Of a particular group, cultural group of phenomenon. A phenomenon related to. Ethnography is basically studying a culture related to human beings, or a phenomenon related to a cultural phenomenon related to a given social or cultural group, based on extensive field work. Extensive, it means the researcher has to be part of that social group. Has to be part of that social group. He should live with them for a given period of time, and also be with them most of the times. He should interact with them as they interact most of the times in their natural settings. And participant observation, it is through observation that he is going to record and collect data. And for the sake of, based on extensive field work and the participant observation, The purpose of conducting ethnography is to reach cultural interpretation. It looks like describing. It is mainly describing or making the culture of that social group understandable to our readers. All right. From the previous definitions, you see in this diagram what are the pillars of ethnography. So we have field work, then we have participant observation, and we have cultural interpretation. They go hand in hand. Field work plus participant observation plus cultural interpretation makes the process of ethnography. All right, I would like to define quickly what are these basic pillars. Field work involves documenting people's beliefs and practices from the people's own perspectives. So, when the researcher is part of that social group, he lives with them, he behaves with them, he drinks, he eats what they eat, drinks what they. So when he encounters, of course he has to live with them, as I said, and when he interacts, the way they interact in their, let's say, in their natural environment or natural setting. So in his field work, he observes everything. Everything occurring in front of him and in front of his eyes. So he has to document the practices. I mean, he has to put into question. He has to ask questions about what he has already seen, and he has to reach explanation and answers of what he is asking about. And he has to take into account, he has to document this information. Also, the field work means documenting what people believe, I mean the social group. Cultural interpretation involves the ability to describe what the researcher has heard and seen within the framework of social groups' view of reality. Cultural interpretation means that the researcher seeks a cultural understanding of that social group. Participant observation means or refers to, let's say, an anthropological technique. It is the means, it is through his observation that the researcher is going to collect data. Not only, so he is not going to rely only on observation, but he has to he has to use other techniques like questioning, like interviewing, and so on. Alright, what is the process? We have already said that it is a systematic process as far as ethnography is concerned. So ethnography relies on the following, it's a process which relies on the following stages. Alright, number one, question is identified about studying a social group. Then, the group is identified. Then, what is something very important is that you have to ask for permission to study that social group. Remember, we have to take into account that they're open-minded social groups, and they're conservatives and non-conservative social groups. There are people who don't like strangers or foreigners, but there are other people or other social groups who really welcome foreigners and welcome strangers. Then the researcher observes the group, and here the researcher has to act either as privileged observer or participant observer. Participant observer is welcomed by the social group. He becomes a member of them. A privileged observer, he is accepted to conduct the study, but not to live as, or to behave, live within the social group, within the social group. Participant observer is a member of that social group. He interacts with it. However, privileged observer, he just sets aside and observes and takes notes about what he has already, what he is saying. Another researcher watches and listens attentively and records, and then he's going at the end of his research, he's going to come up with large amounts of notes generated, and then he started analyzing the notes, and then he starts writing up his research paper describing that social group, describing the process of that social group together. Right, ethnography has some advantages and some disadvantages. As far as the advantages are concerned, it looks at the situation holistically. It takes everything, every item, every perspective related to that social group we're studying it. And also, it may arrive to greater understanding of the culture or of that social group. Among the limitations, it's time consuming. It takes too much time. Sometimes it is less than 7 or 9 years old. 9 years. Then possible bias on the part of the observer or the researcher, someone who doesn't like a given social group. When he studies, he's gonna just criticize harshly. He's gonna focus only on, let's say, the bad practices related to that social group. He never talks about the positive things in that social group. And the problem of generalizability, it means sometimes we can add general theories or general ideas from studying a given particular group. Alright, so if someone is studying, for example, the Tuareg society in Tamarrast, in Algeria, he may come with the idea that the Tuareg or all the Tuareg are friendly. In fact, it is not correct. We have Tuareg living in Algeria, and we have a Tuareg living in Mali, in the Niger, and so on. So people living. So Tuareg living in the south of Algeria are different from the Tuareg living in Mali, and so on. All right. Now we come up with the last research method associated with qualitative research. Now we are going to see what is meant by the interview as a qualitative research method. Alright, qualitative research interview seeks to describe the meanings of central themes in the life or in the world of the subjects. Qualitative research interview is used only to describe, let's say, to describe the meanings of certain themes related to our topic of research. Well, the interview means the interview is basically a questionnaire, but spoken one. It relies on asking questions and having answers about. So the main task of the interview is to understand the meaning of what the interview is. We have the interviewer, the one asking questions, and the one answering the questions is known as an interviewee. The interviewer pursues in-depth investigation about the topic. What characterizes the qualitative interview as a research method is that they are based on what the interviewee, what the interviewee says. It is basically based on what is answered, what is said by the interviewee. Alright, the interviewer in the interview works directly with the respondent, with the interviewee. So without the interviewee, there is no interview conducted. And also, another aspect which is related to the interview is that in the interview, the interviewer has the opportunity, has the right to probe questions. It means he stops him and then he moves to another question, or he may change the theme of the discussion sometimes. All right. In this diagram shows the types of the interviews. Basically, we have two types of interviews. We have the standard, and we have the non-standard. We have the standardized interview, and then we have the non-standardized interview. In the standardized interview, the interviewer prepares everything before he starts the interview. He prepares the themes, he prepares the questions, prepares everything. And in the non-standardized interview, the interviewer does not prepare the list of questions. He has just themes, ideas, and then he asks questions with the flow. When he starts asking the first question, each answer leads him to a new question. Alright, in the non-standardized interview, we have also other types of interviews. We have the one-to-one interview, and then we have the one-to-many interview. In the one-to-one, we have types of interviews. We have the face-to-face interview, face-to-face, and then we have the telephone interview. Telephone can be conducted through, interview can be conducted through telephone, and then we have internet interview. It is possible to prepare an interview and then post it on a given website and then call for people to answer your interview. And then in the second type of the non-standardized interview, we have two types of interviews. We have the group interviews known as focus groups, and then we have another type of focus groups known as internet-mediated or group interviews. Like you have the round table group interview. It is where you have a round table, and then you have one acting as an interviewer, the one who organizes the debates. This can be face-to-face on a round table and can be also on internet. On internet there is a given website or a given forum. There is only one responsible for directing the interview, that group interview, and he organizes the debate online. Alright, it's okay. We have seen what is meant by qualitative research. We have seen the research methods associated with qualitative research. Next time we're going to see what is meant by how to organize the middle section of your quantitative research paper. This is Mr. Ghamid. Bye.